Greetings, loyal citizens. It is I, Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists and most adorable of the Emperor's sons. I've been tasked by a certain Lord Inquisitor Remlius of the Ordo Thereticus with answering a number of your questions. Boy, fetch me my appropriate documents. Thank you. Now, let's see here.
When are you going to tell your sons that you're alive and well?
This question is one I ask myself often in these darkest of times. But you must consider what my return would bring. Those four abominations would find cause to once again unify together and embolden their own followers. As the citizens of the Imperium, my sons, and my brother Guilliman would rejoice. I cannot distract Guilliman. And I shall return when my sons meet the test soon to befall them. One beyond a test of faith or endurance, so far gone to call it a test is simply inadequate and wholly true.
Competition is always healthy. Who do you like to compete against in construction?
A healthy rivalry can bring out the best in competitors. I would cite Fulgrim and Ferris as they were upon first meeting, certainly far before their well-known final encounter. Two brothers to craft unparalleled weapons of war, aiming to outdo one another, and at the final step, declaring the other the victor. I suppose you would expect me to say I would wish to compete against Perturabo in an almost expected manner. Well, I cannot fault you for thinking this. I can say that Perturabo, as he is, would provide no sport in the endeavor of competitive construction, as we would grow to see the same tired minefield, razor wire, ambush sectors, hidden gun emplacements, fort after fort, meter after meter of plasteel and concrete, etc., etc. If perhaps Perturabo was not cursed with his knowledge of all things, and his undefinable certainty, perhaps Perturabo, before or just at the start of the Great Crusade, would have been a worthy opponent for my legion and his to see about the building of the same fortress, or even different fortresses. Perhaps if the palace was held by Iron Warriors and Imperial Fists, the Horus heresy would have ended in the total depletion of Horus's forces against that impregnable bastion. But in modern times, I would perhaps seek a challenge against Guilliman. With the mastermind, he would weave a tapestry of supply and logistics to make even my head spin.
Are the sons of the Phoenix actually your descendants? And if so, why do they look and act so much like pre-heresy Emperor's children?
I cannot say. As much tampering of pure Imperial Fist gene seed has occurred over the millennia. Perhaps they are indeed loyalist sons of Fulgrim. If so, they are the noblest and truest remnants of that twisted beyond all redemption legion of hedonists.
What is your view on Perturabo's more architectural aspirations?
A passion worth fostering. The worlds Perturabo would have built would have shamed the post-pacification efforts of other legions had he been allowed to or driven enough to do so. Tragically, much of his efforts were spent in the mud, much due to his method of warfare.
If individual Iron Warrior squadrons turned away from chaos and back to the Emperor's light, would you accept them back?
As we have seen, the sins of the father do not always carry to the sons. However, it has been 10 millennia of endless war. I doubt there are any Iron Warriors who are fleeing their dominions in the warp who do not have alternative motives for returning to the Imperium.
Hello there, Lord Dorn. My question will task even your Primarch brain to its limits, a question so complex that I will be surprised if even a Primarch's brain can handle it. Do you like toast?
In truth, it depends on the grain or starch. Most Imperial agro-worlds rely on mass-grown starches and compress them into nutrient bars. Proper bread, as you might know it, toasted, can be delicious if done right.
Greetings, Lord Praetorian of Terra. I know this question might sound beneath your wisdom, but I must ask. Which plastic blocks are superior for building non-combat simulated fortresses for children? Lego or Pretex?
After careful consideration and reviewing relevant data, I would have to say Lego.
Oh, most exalted Primarch, when the excrement hits the fan, when the center cannot hold, when the chips are down and there isn't enough to cover the wager, When it's all or nothing and all is not enough. On the last day at the last wall. When the ammo is low but there aren't enough men left to fire at all. When all is said and all is done and there is nothing left but to do and die in the Emperor's name. Are the soul drinkers still your sons? Very respectfully, the Lost Ithacan.
The tragedy of the soul drinkers is another reminder to all that even the staunchest defender can be corrupted by the taint of chaos. Yet even as their body mutates around them, if they remain pure of heart and soul, they can overpower great evil. The noble among them I would call my sons. The traitors I would call corpses.
What are your thoughts on Barabbas Daniak?
He is a warrior of iron. He is no iron warrior. He may have shook his head in insult at such a statement, but considering what his traitorous kin have become, perhaps he would forgive me for making such a remark.
My Lord Dorn, I have recently stumbled across a heretical text which seems to depict an alternate reality in which the traitor and loyalist legions were reversed. Most notably, the one to replace Horus as the arch-traitor was you. Resisting my initial urge to simply burn the text, I have decided to have a copy sent to you to hear your thoughts on it.
I have read this disturbing tome. To see traitor and loyalist changed in such a manner unnerves me. What is worse to consider is that this is potentially real in some alternative reality, as portrayed by the warp.
Dear Rogal Dorn, Praetorian of Terra, there is a topic that I believe deeply requires your attention as soon as you are able to do so. There is a chapter belonging to your gene line called the Excoriators. They are afflicted with terrible torment that came from your own most horrific moment. It is called the Darkness, and it's said to be a gene seed flaw that forces some to see terrible visions, namely you seeing the fall of the Emperor after the defeat of Horus. Can you please go to them and talk to them? They need their father to cure them of this mental flaw. Vulcan once offered you a hug when things were so wrong. Sometimes a good cure is simply being there for those who need it. Knight Scion of the Ordo Theoreticus, Matthias.
I weep for my sons on this matter. Yes, I weep. No one, no being should suffer the grief and despair I felt in that exact moment of extreme doubt. Knowing the dream was over, it was unrecoverable, and all that remained was slow decline. Was almost too much to bear, even for me. But as I said, I cannot return at this time.
Lord Dorn, your brother Lord Guilliman had stated before that his dauntless few, a band of brothers and their respective legions alongside his own ultramarines, would be able to handle any situation and conquer any foe. Among them, he counted the noble Leman Russ, the angelic Sanguinius, the indomitable Ferrus Manus, and yourself. Pray tell, who would your dauntless few consist of? Who are the other 4 Primarchs and the legions that you would consider to pair well with your own?
My nephews are wild at times, but of them my dauntless few would be Sanguinius and his Blood Angels, Guilliman and the Ultramarines, Vulcan and the Salamanders, and Corvus of the Raven Guard. I can readily depend on each of them to act independently or as a unified strike force.
Dear Praetorian of Terra, before the heresy began, do you think you and your brother Perturabo could have lessened any bad blood between the two of you? That is, if he was willing to do so?
The major problem there is if he would be willing to lessen the bad blood. He would need to be capable of being wrong, and he refuses to accept that. I admit, I need to be less blunt in my approach. However, his sensitivities would make it difficult.
Lord Primarch Dorn, how do you feel about Lysander throwing the Imperial Fists into a massacre on Taladorn in order to fight the Iron Warriors? That event was the Iron Cage 2.0 after all.
Wasteful. The lesson was learned once, and blind hatred led Lysander astray.
Lord Dorn, what can you tell us about Malcador's personal history? Can you offer any new insights into who he was?
Malcador was the man truly running the highest levels of the mundane in the Imperium. He was, in essence, the founder of its functional government and many organizations. My father simply conquered. Malcador ran things.
Lord Dorn of the Imperial Fists, We here on the world of Colo 500 have heard odd rumors regarding your brother Guilliman and his, shall we say, close relationship with Yvraine, an Eldari witch. What are your thoughts on this, mighty Lord Dorn? Your humble servant, Governor Martin.
Strange times make for strange bedfellows, sometimes literally it seems, if rumor is to be believed. However, I am certain that such comments are made by certain High Lords or other officials that have been slighted by my brother's extremely necessary reforms, making them redundant or shifting power concentrations away from them. If such claims are true, I would need to speak with my brother first to discover what madness has taken root in him before I drag him back to the palace.
Dear Rogal Dorn, greetings from the tomb world of Laroa. Is that what the Imperium knows it as? We from the Keru dynasty admire your fortification style and would like to pose a question, from one defense constructor to another. Do you prefer luring enemies into kill zones, or do you prefer having static defenses all across your fortifications? Overlord Navarre.
Linear defense is a death sentence, elastic or solid. You must adapt and take advantage as the battle progresses. Relying on one form of doctrine is tantamount to signing your own death warrant.
Greetings, great defender Lord of Terra. We want to ask you about our friend ally, your son, Chapter Master Valrak. Are you happy with your son? Skirp for Mingout Claw, General of Kadia Tribe, Vermin Guard.
Valrak is a staunch representative of the Imperial Fists, and I could not be more proud. Though I have not been able to follow him too closely, I am impressed by his following and the effort he puts into his work, representing the Imperial Fists.
Gratuitous greetings, Rogal Dorn, Primarch of the Imperial Fists. A question of relative importance. What do you think of the prospect of your brother, Robute Guilliman, and Yvraine of the Inari becoming a couple?
This again. See prior response. I have no time to deal with gossip mongers. There. That seems to be the last of them. I trust your peculiar questions were answered in a satisfactory degree. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to fortify this position. Farewell, citizens.